Welcome back to another episode of the Flying G Huddle, your inside look into Gladwin football. I'm Casey Campbell. I am your host, and we are pleased to be joined by Mark Jarsfer, the head coach at Gladwin.
How's it going,
Mark,
Casey?
it's
I'm
going
doing all
good.
right.
It's been a day. So, I'll use the line from the old cartoon. When we last left our heroes. Um so when we last left you guys, we were talking about the upcoming season and all that other stuff. And then you had the game against Flat Rock, and I know obviously not the result that you wanted, but what can you take away from week one and then just kind of go into the game?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, overall the game was a great experience. It was everything that we talked about it being leading into it, with it being, two good football programs, getting after it. I thought that it was everything that high school football should be, as far as, a good back and forth affair, great sportsmanship by everybody, a mutual respect between the programs, and just a good positive experience. Obviously, um, we would have liked to come out with the win, but we just had too many turnovers offensively to make that happen. And so that's something that obviously we're going to have to clean up going into these next couple weeks because the schedule doesn't get much easier.
Yeah. Okay, so just kind of take us through a summary of the game like we always do on here.
Yeah, so Flat Rock took an early 7-0 lead. We answered right in the first quarter with a 69-yard Finnegar run to tie it up 7-7. Madison Lockwood kicked the extra point through on that. Flat Rock then went up 14-7. Colton Finnegar ran another one in from short, 4 yards out. Madison Lockwood was good on the extra point. Um, I think in the first quarter alone, we had three turnovers. We had two fumbles and an interception that we threw on a trick play after we turned them over on downs deep in their territory. And that's really hard. Generally, the games are won and lost, just by simply looking at the turnover margin. And so we ended up with five total turnovers, two fumbles, two interceptions, and then a turnover on downs compared to their one turnover on downs. And so when you're, -4 in that category, it's generally not going to be even a game. But even with those three early turnovers, they went up 21-14 right before the half, and then we came out and stopped them on that first possession that they had because they received to start the second half, and then we went in and scored on another Finnegar run from 21 yards out, we had an opportunity to tie that one up. They jumped off sides on the extra point attempt, and so we opted to take the penalty and go for two for a chance to take the lead. To that point, like I said, we had been massively outdone in the turnover battle there, and to sort of have a chance to take the lead in that second half was a good opportunity for us. But unfortunately, we were unable to get that in, and so then we were trailing 21-20 in the third. Flat Rock put another one on and converted the extra point to make it 28-20. Going into the fourth quarter, uh, they put one more on us. We answered right back with an 80-yard touchdown pass as a one-play drive to MJ McDonald from Finnegar. And then we failed the 2-point conversion there, which was a bummer because then that left us down nine, which was two possessions. And so, Flat Rock was driving into our end a little bit, and we had used some timeouts, and they had converted some first downs, and so we got to a spot where if we would have just let them chunk away at it, there would have been potentially 10, 20 seconds left, something like that. And we were already down two scores. So if they scored again, it didn't really matter too much. And so we opted to during one of our timeouts, we talked about just letting them score. And then obviously we had to stop the ensuing 2 point conversion if that's what they're going to opt for. And so that's kind of how it went. We let them score because, like I said, it would still only be down 2 scores with it being nine. And then they went for the two, ran this crazy trick play thing, complete missile down the sideline. They, drug the feet to catch it in the back of the end zone. And that was kind of the dagger. I mean, it was already deep odds before that, but obviously that 2 point conversion then made us down 3 scores, and that's kind of how it ended with it being 43 to 26. And so, as I alluded to earlier, just the turnovers were killers. And some of that can be blamed on early season football, but at the same time, it was their first game as well, and they didn't have those issues. And so we just got to do a better job in that area. And if we do, we'll give ourselves a much better chance to come out on the right side of things.
Absolutely. Okay, so we do this after every win and every loss. Your MVPs of the game.
Yeah, I for the offensive MVP, I would choose MJ McDonald. He's a sophomore. He's somebody that all offseason had kind of worked in as our number two running back. And then, over the last week or so, we had an injury at slot, and we put him out there at slot just kind of on short notice, and he's really picked it up great. I mentioned that he had an 80-yard pass reception for a touchdown. He played a majority of the game at slot and starting at safety. And so he's going to be a special player for us in our program. And it's cool to see, him be able to adapt so quickly with a position change within the last week or so that helped our team. And so he'd be our offensive MVP. Defensive MVP, be Talon Goodwin. He led our team in tackles, 13 of them, I believe. And so, he was just flying around the field, and we've talked about it before that those two interior line backers are going to be the strength of our defense with Talon and Preston. Talon had 13 tackles, Preston had 10. And so good day out of both, but Talon gets the nod for the MVP spot just because he had three more. And so moving on to special teams MVP, for that one, I chose Madison Lockwood. She's our extra point kicker this year. Going into her junior year, tough job this year taking over for Eric Rogo, who did a fantastic job for us in the past. And she was 2 for 2 on her extra points. And, I'm sure she was nervous as heck getting out there in front of the big crowd and the big moment and all that kind of stuff. But she did a really good job. And obviously, when you're 100% on extra points, that's a big deal. In hindsight, maybe we should have kicked to that one where we went for two and kept that game within a score going in late rather than getting behind the eight ball. But regardless, she did a good job this week, and we're expecting her to be really consistent all year as well. And so she's our special teams MVP.
All right. Okay, so we've got the MVPs out of the way. Now it's time to talk about how the JV team did.
Our JV team was not successful. We played a really good Bay City Western team. And it's just one of those deals where, when you're not to make excuses, but when you're going against a school that has, an enrollment of near 1,000, and our enrollment's right around 500, they got a ton of kids out for football. I think they might even have a freshman JV and varsity team. We just have the two levels. And, we have at least 7 kids moved up from our JV team that are starting in various spots on the varsity team, with some other guys that are sophomores as well and freshmen that we've limited their snaps on the JV team so that they're eligible to take advantage of some fifth quarter rule snaps for us. And so a couple guys only playing a half or maybe playing 3 quarters down there so that we could save their snaps for the varsity game. And so like I've talked about before, we don't care much about the score there. Obviously, you try your best to win it, but at the end of the day, we're just looking for development. And there's a lot of guys on that team who haven't had a ton of reps in their life, and so now they're getting an opportunity to get those with all of those sophomores that are moved up. And so it might not look pretty early on, but it's something where they're going to continually develop over the course of the season, regardless of what the record ends up being. And then when we get all of these sophomores together with their teammates who have been moved up to the varsity, in the years to come, we'll have a good group of kids that, from top to bottom have had a lot of reps and experience. And that's kind of when you're able to make some really good things happen.
Okay, so let's get an update on the middle school program.
Yeah, so the middle school program, they have a scrimmage coming up this week on September 3rd, and that's going to be with Claire over at our place. And so I'm sure they're excited to go against another team rather than just themselves in practice every day. And for them, things are just about to get fun. It's always fun when you can, see a different team lined up against you, and that'll start, this week on the 3rd for a scrimmage to kind of work some of the kinks out. And then the following week, September 10th, they get to go live and have their week 1 game. And so, as I've mentioned before, having that kind of under our umbrella is a positive thing. It's cool seeing the 8th graders, quickly remembering what they ran last year on the 7th grade team and the same coaches and the continuity and that kind of stuff. And I think that they could go on to have a really good season this year. And then, that kind of merge right into the high school or roll over into the high school stuff and just more of the same, hopefully, as far as continuity and running the same plays and the same schemes and same terminology. And so I think that's going to be a really good thing for us.
For sure. And of course, now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show. It's where Mark gets to talk about a staff member.
Yeah, this week I'd talk about Hunter Williams. He's a guy that played for us back in 2020, I believe. He graduated from Gladwin, obviously, and he's just such a knowledgeable young coach. He's kind of moved into a position with my brother leaving and some other guys, kicking around to where now he's kind of the right hand guy. He's who for the offensive side of things. He's who I talked to on Friday nights, and it was cool finding some chemistry and with him this Friday night being our first game, kind of in that situation where he's on the headsets upstairs and telling me what he sees and suggesting things and whatever. And so, as that gets going and we get more experience, that's going to be a better thing for us. Another cool thing about him is he's one of our volunteer coaches, and so he's not a guy that gets paid to be here. He's done that volunteer role for a number of years now, and he's a busy guy too. I mean, he's part owner of Northern Espresso, a little coffee shop right in downtown Gladwin. He's a loan officer. He works for my brother at GVC Mortgage. And so he's got a lot of stuff going on, and he's busy and he still, sets aside some time to come help out with the football team. And like I said, he's really knowledgeable. And so good asset for us. Happy to have him on board and excited to see the continued growth there and how it is a positive thing for our program.
Before we preview next week's opponent, I know that the Flat Rock community was had some have some very encouraging words for your team this past weekend.
Yeah, Coach Reum, I mean, sent me a really nice message just talking about, how well mannered our kids were, how respectful they were, specifically in the post game handshake line, and like there was no there's no like dirty play on the field. There was just a, like I mentioned earlier, just a good mutual respect between two really good programs. And I think I even said earlier, it's everything that high school football should be. There's just a high level of sportsmanship, a high level of class. Neither fan base was negative at all that I heard. It was just two towns cheering for their kids, and the kids were just being respectful, young people trying their best. And so all the way around, everything that he sent our way, I think could be echoed, the same sentiments towards their program. Just really impressed with the whole experience all the way around, and quite frankly, pretty excited to go back down to their place next year and get to see that because I thought the experience was great. At our place and their program that we obviously respect a lot. And now we're 0-1 against them. And so hopefully next year we can kind of even that up down there at their place.
All right. Now it's time to preview this week's opponent. Spring Lake is your week two opponent and your first road trip of the 2025 season. Similar to how Flat Rock had a long trip to get up to Gladwin, you're going to have a very similar trip down to the west side of the state.
Yeah, certainly. It's nearly a 3-hour trip for us by bus, and so that comes with some logistical things that you got to sort out, and luckily this isn't the first time that we've ever had to take a long trip. With trips up to Kingsford and down to Ford Field, and we've been around trips to Pontiac Notre Dame Prep, and we've been over to Muskegon Oak Ridge. All of these things have happened in the last few years, and so we have guys on our roster that have experienced some of those trips, and they kind of know how to handle it and what's expected. And so it's still a long trip though at the end of the day, and so you got to do everything you can to work yourself through it, and that's part of being mentally tough and mentally prepared for those sorts of things. And so, once we get there, though, it's just playing football, but doing so against a good Spring Lake team. I mean, they're 1-0, looking for some momentum. They had a pretty good year last year. With a lot of their losses being close one-score games. And so, this is, I'm sure, what they're looking for to be kind of a breakout year for them and a turning point in their program. And so, they're catching us when we're coming off a tough 0-1 loss. And, we're desperate to get back on the right track too. And so, it should be a really good matchup. Again, with two teams that have never squared off. And so just kind of a product of the success that we've had and having to go out and search high and low and near and far. And it just happens to be that most of the matchups come far these days. And so we're excited for it. Just anytime you get a chance to go play a team that you've never played before is cool. Checking out the stadium and the town and all the experiences and memories that come from it. And so we'll do the best that we can to get our guys prepared and put together a good game plan. Obviously, this long weekend that we had will help. Probably both teams kind of nurse some injuries and those sorts of things, and hopefully both teams are at full strength going into that, so that we can put on a good show and hopefully we do enough to come out with the win this time around.
All right. Well, as they say in the old soap operas, the answer to all your questions will be revealed in the next episode of the Flying G Huddle. Tune in next week where we'll we'll recap this game against Spring Lake and preview the week 3 matchup against Ogama Heights. So we'll talk to you soon.